Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I'm your host, Sergeant John Prine, the Public Information Officer for the Indiana State Police Indianapolis District. The Roadshow is brought to you each and every week by the Indiana State Police Alliance and Cops for Kids, a subsidiary of the State Police Alliance. For more information about our sponsor, you can visit them at www.indianasfinest.com. I want to thank Mr. Tom Trial for getting us on YouTube each and every week. We do appreciate his efforts. He works really hard to do that. And thanks for watching. Also, I want to thank BK, Brendan King, WIBC, MS Communications, Matt Hiblin, all the folks that work so hard to get us on the radio. We do appreciate that partnership as well. And these two guys that are here with me, you see them all the time because they're so full of knowledge. They're so smart. They just make me look smart when they come.
Slow time of the year again.
Right?
He's had us back again.
And either they're great guests or they just never say no. Either way, welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you.
Captain Ron Galvez, Chief PIO for the Indiana State Police, and my good old friend, Deputy Chief Mike
Make
Pruitt,
sure you get that right.
Bargersville Fire Department.
Just count the bugles.
Somebody allowed him to be a deputy chief.
All the bugles mean is the more bugles you have, the more stuff you plunge. That's what they always say.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, well, thanks for cleaning that up for us a little. So here we are this time of year. I tell you, I love the fall. Love the weather. I hate what comes after it. But there's a lot of safety things that come with that fall weather, and one of those biggest ones are farm equipment on the roadway. You see an increase in silo incidents. We'll talk about those a little bit. But then maybe also those backyard fires and campfires and gatherings that people like to have. There's some safety that comes along with that. So we're going to get to each of those because, believe it or not, Mike is an expert on all three. And we're just here to ask the questions, Captain.
That's right. Maybe give him another bugle for his collar.
Yeah, one more.
So let's start with that farm machinery on the roadway. All three of us are from and live in rural areas that have experience with that, and we know those times of year, but it's also often easy to get complacent and forget that those trailers may be parked close to the side of the road. The combines take up the whole road. So what do you want folks to know?
Well, there's some shared responsibility. You know, when you talk to farmers, they complain about the average driver that's driving down the road. And when you talk to the drivers in the community, they're complaining about the farmers hogging the roadway. And there's some responsibility on both sides of the fence there. When it comes to the drivers, they need to understand that, you know, farmers moving from one location to the other have to use the roadways. They just can't stay in the field all the time, and that requires taking very large pieces of equipment down roadways that have not expanded in size, even though farm equipment has. And so having some consideration for the farmer moving from point A to point B is very important. And on the other hand, with the farmers, I've met farmers before that if they get a line of traffic behind them, they just choose to make them wait. You know, and
almost
some
a road rage type thing,
almost,
right?
yes. And what I ask the farmers to do is make sure that you pull over when you can, when there's space. Also, make sure your equipment is lighted and marked very well, because especially at nighttime, because
the outermost part.
Yes, at the outermost part of that equipment, because a lot of farmers like to move at the later hours of the evening because there's less traffic, and all it takes is one vehicle not able to see a piece of farm equipment. And there could be a serious collision. And I always talk about the rule of lug nuts. If you have fewer lug nuts, there's probably a good chance you're going to lose that competition if you ever want to challenge each other. So,
and not many things bigger than a combine.
No, they're huge. So, you know, and farmers are traveling farther these days to farm land more farther than they used to. So I have friends that farm north of Indianapolis who drive their farm equipment in the middle of the night right through to Indianapolis to the south side of Indianapolis to farm their ground there.
And there's also little farms in these urban areas as well. Like some of these fields could be right in the middle of Indianapolis or Fishers or Marion County or Carmel. So they have to get their equipment there.
Yeah.
I mean, they can't. It's not feasible for them to trailer it there.
You know, many of our communities across the state are growing, especially around metro areas, whether it's Indianapolis, whether it's Fort Wayne, a lot of the outlying areas where people may not be used to being around farm equipment.
Yeah, you know, and I was saying Fishers, you know, where I reside like right on the edge of the incorporated area. So it's development is still moving that way, but yet there are still a lot of fields, and it's not uncommon. So yeah, you're right. People may not be used to seeing that equipment. And those things are technological anomalies. It's amazing what those things can do, but unfortunately, they cannot avoid vehicle crashes, or they cannot dictate, when an aggressive driver or an impatient driver is going to come upon them. So,
Yeah.
like
And,
you said,
the other thing, though, you talk about shared responsibility. It's also important that the farmers that are driving this equipment or the people driving this equipment take the time to make sure the equipment's secure, to make sure it's ready for the road. And last fall, I came home one Sunday and my mailbox was obliterated and sitting in my driveway, broken off at the post.
And you thought it was a farmer?
Well, no, I found out it was. And so a friend of mine,
Oh, I'm off the hook.
somebody I've known for a long time,
Yeah.
he called or he came by the house and he said, hey, my combine broke. In a moment of frustration, I pulled out of the field. I forgot to put my ladder up, and my ladder hit your mailbox. Sorry, and of course that nobody was hurt. Of course it was just a
Right.
mailbox we got to take care of. But it's important that you take those necessary steps to make sure that your equipment is prepared for the road, that your loads are secure, that if something folds up and it's supposed to be folded up when it goes on the road, take the time to fold it up.
Right. And we get later in the season, especially depending on what the weather's like, farmers tend to get in a hurry. And, they may miss little things like that they, that could lead to a situation like that where catching your mailbox or catching another vehicle. And, we always encourage farmers to try to get their rest.
Yeah.
Because when you get in a hurry, you work the long hours, your attention span isn't as good. Telling a farmer to get rest during harvest season is like dang near impossible to get that done. But they need to take care of themselves also, eating well, hydrating, resting, so that when they are moving equipment either in the field or across the roadways, they're 100% when they're doing that.
Yeah. Again, and it's just about, taking that extra second. If we expect drivers to do the right thing to make our roads safe, secure their loads, drive safely, all those, but the same for farmers. And the other thing that I see often is those grain trailers, those semi-trucks that they park in the road or right on the edge of the road. Sometimes they don't have a choice, right? I get it. Those aren't all-terrain vehicles, but just be cognizant of where you're leaving those vehicles, hills, curves, intersections that maybe you're blocking the view. Just really try to be cognizant of that.
I think too, as a member of the community, if you're not involved in that and you're driving, now's the time you need to understand that may see these things parked on the side of the road, driving down the roadway, understanding that even if they are moving, they're not moving as fast as you are. If you're moving in an area where the speed limit is 55 miles an hour, you're going to come upon this equipment exponentially quicker than if that vehicle was moving at the same speed. So I think having that frame of mind, that thought process before you even get in the vehicle, it's like, hey, I'm driving across the county. Probably a good chance I'm going to come across a tractor or a combine or see a stop
And
truck.
Mike, it's inevitable. I'm sure every year of your career that you've been a firefighter, you've probably responded to a combine fire, right?
Yes,
it just
they do happen.
What do you want to tell a farmer that, hey, you're out in the middle of the field and your combine catches on fire? What should they do?
Well, one thing is always make sure your equipment is prepared. So when you go to the field, make sure you have fire extinguisher. I've seen many farmers try to fight the fire on their own, and once it gets into that bean dust that's on there, the corn stalks, it can get out of control really quick. And many times there's nothing left of these combines, and they're usually in the middle of a field somewhere. So I'm not telling you to drive the piece of machinery on fire across the field as quick as you can, but somewhere think about it. If we're going to get access to you, if you have some sort of emergency like that, move it away from the standing crops, because there's a very good chance that if it catches fire, it's going to spread into that standing corn, soybeans, whatever the crop is you're harvesting. So, but the big thing is just make sure that you have fire extinguishers or on any of your farm equipment that you're using. So if you do have that situation happen, you can respond to it
Are some of
appropriately.
these fires caused by maintenance issues as well? Maybe somebody took a shortcut, or is it just happen?
I think some of it, a lot of times, is you'll have a bearing go out. And that bearing gives off a lot of heat. You'll have a part of the combine that malfunctions, and that heat starts that dust on fire, and that's where we typically have our problems. We don't used to, when everything was gas powered, you'd emit sparks, whether it was a truck, a piece of farm equipment, and it would set a field on fire. Now with diesel, everything being diesel, things are run a lot cooler, so you tend to see the hot bearings and things like that start fires.
Now let's talk to the farmers, the ones that are out there, because it seems like every year we see the tragic consequence of silo accidents. Somebody taking a shortcut, doing something they weren't supposed to in a silo that's full of grain, and you see sometimes a successful rescue, and other times it's fatal.
Yeah, it's we know farmers get inside their grain bins and silos all the time, and the reason they get in there is if they're unloading corn to take to market, or say they've been drying corn and they're moving it somewhere else. Some of this corn can get moldy, or it can be wet, and you'll get shelves of corn. It won't flow like it's supposed to. So a lot of the farmers will get inside the grain bin, try to push the corn down, try to clear maybe a plugging of the auger system, and they don't tell anybody that they're in there, and they're still continuing to unload. And tragically, too many farmers across the country every year end up being trapped in these grain bins. And by the time someone finds out that they're inside that grain bin, it's too late. And so, we encourage that, if you are going to go into a grain bin, don't do it alone. Make sure you're not unloading. If you feel like that you have to go in there for any reason,
Turn the augers off, right?
Turn the augers off, secure the electricity so that there's no mistakes made.
Are there any kind of harness systems or any safety systems?
There are harness systems out there that one could tie themselves off to put on to be safe. But in the big picture thing, it's usually because they're still unloading the corn. Someone goes in, and they, for whatever reason, they either fall through in a shelf of corn that was maybe crusted and there's a void underneath it, or they just fall into the moving corn and they can't find themselves back, and it only takes seconds.
And it's like quicksand.
It's like quicksand.
You fight, the deeper.
Yeah, and once that corn gets to your chest level and you can't expand your chest anymore, you're not going to breathe, and you're not going to make it out. So
farmers, we're asking you, please don't take the shortcuts. Though those rescues are difficult. There's a lot of training and equipment in place, but don't take the shortcuts, and just try to do it the right way so you keep yourself and your family safe.
Right.
So our last couple minutes here, let's transition to the fall. It's fall weather. I love having a little fire in the backyard, sitting around with my family, just enjoying the nice cool breeze. But what are some safety things if you're going to have a backyard fire?
Well, make sure that it's in a pit. Or if you have a commercial fire pit, that's even better. But there are regulations, and everyone should check the local burn regulations. If you don't have a local burn ordinance, then use the state burn ordinance, and that's accessible online for people to look at. It needs to be in some type of containment area. Have a source of water to put it out. Never leave it burning. Never walk away from it, because that's where it'll end up. Something will blow off of it and catch something on fire it shouldn't. And never use flammable liquids to start your fires, anything like that. That can go bad for you.
Yeah, very, very dangerous. And make sure, dry leaves, make sure you're raking the leaves out around from the fire pit and watching, sometimes somebody will throw their trash on the fire, and away goes a big hot amber.
Right.
So ember. I said amber.
Amber. It's ember. It's ember. Yeah. Yeah.
See, I'm not up
hot
on this
materials.
firefighter logo, but something hot.
Yes.
How about that?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's fall. We want everybody to enjoy, but most importantly, we want everybody to be safe. Share the road with that farm equipment. Everybody does their part to make sure everybody gets to go safely. And it all comes down to patience. If everybody would just understand, those farmers got a job. They wouldn't be blocking the road. They'd much rather be home not blocking the road, right? But they're trying to get their job done. Give them a little room.
Absolutely.
So we got about a minute here, Mike. What else do you have for fall safety? We got farm harvest, we got silos, we got backyard fires. What are some other things going on?
Start thinking ahead towards winter with your home and safety within the home. Fire Prevention Week always comes around every year in the fall, and we always preach the smoke alarms, making sure your smoke alarms, making sure your carbon dioxide alarms are all working in your home, because now we're going to start buttoning up the homes and getting ready for winter. So, and don't use those space heaters or anything like that.
So
It
start
can get you in trouble. Yes,
for that dreaded
winter.
Weather.
Yeah.
And then on that, you talk about vehicles. Now's a good time to maybe start getting your vehicle ready
Good
for
point.
winter travel.
Yeah, check your tires. Make sure you got windshield washer fluid. Just little
Absolutely.
things.
Yep.
Little things.
Get your little emergency kit ready to go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. Well, thank you for joining us, Captain Ron Galavis, Deputy Chief Mike Pruitt. Always a pleasure to have you. You always fill us full of great knowledge and safety tips, and I feel safer after having this conversation.
I'm glad you do, John.
We'll talk to you next time. Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.